Okay, well, I'll open the August meeting of the Gwydir Shire Council and welcome to everybody. I think it might be your first time here, Kim, is it, to a meeting? In particular, welcome to you, and of course Rachel's an old stager. But welcome anyway, Rachel.
Thank you for the
welcome anyway, Rachel. Rachel told me she left pretty early this morning because she jogged over. So. Okay, we better go on with it. Call for apologies.
Councillor Dixon has an apology.
Councillor Dixon. That's it, is it? Would somebody like to move that we accept that apology? Councillor Egan, Councillor Galvin. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous council meeting. It's been, seems like ages since we met, but it's a month. Yeah. Would somebody like to move that they be
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
read and seconded? Councillor Colton moved, seconded, please. Councillor Smith. Put that motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
So carried. A call now for declaration of interest and conflicts of interest. None at this stage. There is an additional late item that I would ask them. I'd like to move that we accept that on the agenda. Councillor Egan and Councillor Galvin have done that. I'll put that. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's now carried. Thank you. The first item is the council's activity report to be noted. I think everybody happy with that? I mean, there's often hard to get everything down, but as I've said before, I think it's a good idea that we do this because it does demonstrate to the public anyway just how active you all are. Okay, we're going to officers' reports.
Oh, we need a movement.
Oh, I do too, and that we that be accept what? That be what?
Oh, just a reception.
Noted, I suppose. Yeah. Councillor Egan, the council reports be noted. Councillor Egan moved it, seconded, please. I'll go to Councillor Young this time. Those in favour say aye. No, okay. Yeah, it was a definite.
Yeah.
Officers' reports, monthly executive report. Thanks.
Happy to take questions.
Junction Park shelter's been well used.
Yes, it is, and so is the one at the boat ramp.
Okay.
And under the grant funding, we'll be putting additional ones around down near the pontoon and also other places like in Fays Park.
The extension of the sewage system in Mingra,
Yes.
has there been application made for a grant for that project?
Yes, we're working on an application. Well, we've already received one grant.
Oh, that was for the planning.
That was for the planning, and the planning is still being conducted, and I think because of COVID there's been a little bit of a problem getting the people from Sydney up to actually finalise the planning.
Is that what has to happen?
Yeah, and but I've got no doubt at all we'll get grant funding.
Well,
the quantity of the grant funding I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, Adam Marshall said the day that he announced the first grant that they would fund it as well.
Yeah,
The project.
you just
So
got to go through the.
I was just wondering what we're up to
process.
at that stage. Yeah. Any questions?
Max, can I just make
You
sure?
have to say your name, Councillor Egan.
Councillor Egan, I just wonder if in the past I've disclosed the showground interest and I asked that it be ongoing until I resign my position. Is that ongoing or do I have to announce it every time?
What's this, pecuniary interest?
When the showgrounds mention,
Yeah.
When the showgrounds mention, like for example in reports like this, I don't think there's any reason why your particular interest needs to be
No.
registered.
Okay, just want to clear that up. Thank you.
It's only a report.
We just asked Catherine to speak into the mic. She's
I
got a
can't
very
hear.
low voice.
I can't. What was the first thing you said,
He
Catherine?
was wondering if she should declare an interest.
No,
because-
no, the one before that. I didn't hear you when you asked for something.
Oh, I just mentioned that the tables at the park were very nice and being well utilised.
Could I ask, could we have a bin down there? At the boat ramp? Someone asked for that the other day.
At the pontoon or at the boat ramp?
At the boat ramp, where the picnic tables is, because they just pick up their rubbish and take them with them, but they said some people might not.
Okay,
If we could have a bin down there, please.
yes, I can organise that.
Max,
Yes.
yes.
Just a quick one, Max. The Parthenium
Yes.
weed out at Cropper Creek, are they happy they've sort of
Well, the environmental people are sort of coordinating that because it's they're pretty excited that they've found it and they need to get on top of it straight away. So,
Right.
as I understand it, we're in the process of planning exactly the full extent of the spread of the weed and the action plan that will be required to address it.
Yeah.
I think it was fairly wide area. Do you,
Yeah, well,
are you
20
familiar with it?
20 kilometres they're
it?
talking
I'm
about,
not now, but I
along the
just,
creek bed.
Yeah.
Along Cropper Creek, is it?
Oh, that's terrible.
Water.
That's right, it was in the creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dry creek bed, but they're taking it on board that there could have been water in it at some stage, so they're investigating the creek up to about 20 kilometres.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
Yeah, they're taking it very, very seriously.
Yeah.
That's good.
Actually, I hit this question of Alex Eddy some time ago, but it's your report, so I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
I noticed with this, the contamination in the rubbish that's in the recyclables and that sort of thing, it's suggesting that we have promotion about it on Facebook, and I don't see that that's happened. It says in the report that's what needs to happen. And I believe that the numbers are pretty good now,
Yeah.
but it is something that I think where this council, this shire is compared with others.
Yeah, I know, we don't come up very well. I'll follow that up about why it hasn't been, but I think too we should be, going directly to identifying people who are habitual offenders and making them feel uncomfortable about it. Which would
How would
require
you
an
do
order.
that, Max? Would you have to go and inspect their bins before they...
There is an example in here, but I guess it's an easy one where there was renal waste.
Yeah, that's easily traced. But other stuff, would you have to go and inspect a bin beforehand or do
Yeah, well,
a
it's not,
street or
it's not a
something?
bad thing to do an audit of bins on an irregular basis
Yeah.
so that you can establish if people aren't
Yeah.
doing the right thing. Because it's a real pain if a contaminated load goes away and has to come back and be dumped. It sort of makes a mockery of recycling.
Yeah, I think the bins are labelled badly. And I have said that before. The labels are on the top of the bin. The label should be on the front of the bin. You've got a handful of stuff. You've opened the bin up and you think, oh, which one does it go into now? If they're on the front of the bin, you could read them.
That's with the manufacturer of the bin, isn't it?
Yeah, well, is it? I don't know.
Well, isn't it implanted in the plastic?
Yes, it
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, just as a matter of interest, Catherine Egan,
Yes, Catherine, speak
Yeah.
up.
With the soft voice.
Ian was at the dump the other day and our man out there made someone go down in the dump and get what he'd put in there out and put it in the right
Well, you
place.
can't leave your wife there.
Well, it wasn't his wife. It was something a little more than his wife.
Oh, something more important, yeah.
But he was right on it, and I think that
Yeah.
that sort of thing's
Yeah, I know,
worth
they do.
They
They're
take
very
ownership
meticulous
of
in the
it.
tip, yeah.
The public go down in the pit to reclaim.
I'll check it wasn't his wife. He didn't actually say it wasn't his wife.
The other question I have for you, Max, is that the DAs for these gravel pits have been appearing for a long time in our council reports. Why are they so
Just
slow?
stay there.
The,
All the gravel pits.
well, there's
Those
a,
good, Spencer.
yeah, there's a level of environmental assessment that's required. And on those quarries, we put them out to a private contractor to be assessed. And she apparently went to sleep with a,
Mask.
a contact lens in her eye and had some very severe infection and had ended up in hospital in Sydney. So that's been the reason for the delay in processing a lot of those.
That's an excellent explanation.
That's a good, yes, that's,
I think she's on the mend now. Yes, but yeah, no. So there's a warning there. Don't go to sleep with your contact lenses.
Some of them you're allowed to.
Well, I
I
thought you
wore
could
them
have
for
them for a
years.
month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Max? Yes, Councillor Moore.
Max, down behind the skate park at Warriola, there's been a tree laying in the grass there for some time. It needs to be removed. The boys mow all around it, but the tree just sits in the middle of it,
Where is it? Cal?
just behind the skate park at Warriola there. Yeah.
I'm happy to arrange for that to be removed.
And there's also a fair contamination of mother of millions along the creek there now.
below there or further along? Where exactly?
No, that's up where Rotary's cleaned it all up there now. You'd see the mother of millions, I mean, Max, or the tree?
Yeah, the mother of million.
Yeah, no, up along the creek, about halfway along there. You'll see it under the trees there. Quite easy to see now.
Max, the other thing is you might like to explain the meeting on page 31. What that is.
The spiral thing.
Yes.
And I have a question beside mine,
And
funded
I don't
by,
know what the golden ratio is.
The golden ratio, I think, has got something to do with Da Vinci.
Oh, well, this is riveting. Mm-hmm.
Well, it will be. It's just when those people were out on site, we got them to dig a hole which winds down so kids can run down to the bottom of the hole, and if they want they can run back out and then they can keep running up the top
Up
of
the
the
other
hill,
side.
which is the soil that came out of the...
Right, and is that something to do with the golden ratio? Or?
Yeah, apparently.
And what's the, I can't even pronounce it, numbers?
The...
You've got to be Italian to pronounce that one.
Yeah. I'm sure it's got something to do with Da Vinci, and I don't know. And if you did a search, you'd probably be able to find it on Google. But it's got you know, seashells and like they've looked at all those things, and there's a relationship between the spirals, and that's what Rick's trying to do there. It's part of the Aboriginal cultural burden, and really you should stay on top of these things.
I'm trying to. That's why
and
I'm
could
asking
I
the question.
ask who it's funded by? That's my
I
private.
just wonder how it got into a
Who
council
and where is
report.
it funded from?
No, the people were out there anyway. It wasn't. There was no additional cost involved. They just dug a hole and moved it. It was the.
So they didn't charge us for the
It
use of the
was-
machine?
It was, yeah.
It was
Training.
people. It was training.
Yeah.
We had people from an employment service from Gunnedah
With the mining
were
sector.
training Indigenous people mainly
Use the machine.
in plant operation skills for mining jobs, and they were doing other work around, like they dug a dam and they cleaned out a dam and they built
Okay.
this thing. And I'm sure that they're now thinking of how they can apply what they've learned here about this magic number in other locations.
Councillor Young,
Well, the number is, that sequencing thing, so you go 2 and 1 is 3, and then 3 and 2 is 5, then 5 and 3 is 8.
Should have asked.
what's it got to do with
The
anything?
sequence.
It's a sequence, it's a sequence.
Well, I understand that. I don't know what it had to do with the hole
don't either.
or the golden ratio.
I
Or,
don't either.
yeah, I need
I'm
further
just telling you.
explanation. Yeah,
All right, I'll look up golden ratio.
yeah I'll do that myself. Councillor Galvin.
While we're on the living classroom, I know before we discussed, and it's allowed to look overgrown or whatever it is.
Natural.
That's good. Natural out of the area, but around the actual living classroom buildings itself, I was up there it was probably a month ago, and it's really looking scruffy. Like lots of weeds in those gardens, and I thought we said up there it had to look tidy. Like it can be scruffy or not
These are those
scruffy.
galvanised no-own gardens you're talking about? Raised garden
No,
beds?
they're okay.
No.
I think it's the
They were
front.
full of weeds,
It's
weren't they?
everywhere, like
Yeah,
all
yeah.
around where you walk in,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's very.
I thought it was pretty tidy when I went up the other day.
They might have done it, but
They
I know.
moved all that terrible gravel and stuff.
Yeah,
where
but
you
no,
go
this
in.
is the gardens. Like they're just natural, I suppose.
Untidy.
I mean, I know there's weddings and things going up there, and it does
Yeah.
look a bit.
I'm sure it'll get tidied up for those things. And I haven't. I thought it was pretty good the last time I was up there. I have to
When
say.
I was up there, it was pretty
When was that?
ordinary.
There is an ongoing misunderstanding between what my level of tidiness is and the person that's up there's level of untidiness is. And I suspect if you want to understand the difference, all you'd have to do is look at his house, and you can understand that that's not acceptable level of tidiness, in my opinion.
Oh, the lawns.
But it's a
and the
constant
garden.
fight to get it mowed.
But we're the employers, so we have
Yes,
that
we-
right to
we
say, this is how we want it done.
And mostly it is.
Yeah.
That brings me to another question. Max, it just says that the horticultural assistant employed under drought relief will continue on the end of the calendar year. Is that applying to the others too?
Yes, it is.
It's a
There
whole
was significant money left over from the program that was adopted
So we can
last
take
year.
them right through. That's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Max, on that report? If there isn't, can somebody move the recommendation?
I'll move the
Councillor
report.
Young, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Galvin. Put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 2. Leah, monthly organisation community service report.
It's a pretty comprehensive and full report. The items that I'll bring to your attention are Nauru, and the kitchen's complete and new furniture, and it looks a picture up there at the moment. Also, the development of the pool's continuing and also looking very exciting. And we've had some improvements at Cranky Rock, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I could waffle on for an hour about what's in the report.
Councillor Galvin.
I just want to commend, I had some relatives from Sydney and I took them out to Cranky Rock, and it was just so clean, and the toilets, everything was pristine, and I think they need commending. Like, it was really, and there was some other people, there was heaps of people out there when we went out there, and they were visitors and they were saying the same thing. It was just, it's a credit to those people.
It's great feedback.
And I think that needs to be written, because it was a credit. It was really good.
Councillor Egan.
Thank you.
Leah, you mentioned the pool. I'm sorry to be a nag, but could you tell me, are we on budget for that project? Because we're looking at all the pretties now, and there seems to be quite an amount of money going into pretties. Have the functional bits been done first? And are we on budget?
Which bits of the budget are you interested in?
The pool,
swimming pool.
we had 2.1 million. Have we done our projects in budget? And is the pool, we had a different budget for it? The whole thing, Max. I don't care what budget it is. Are we on budget?
We essentially we're on budget, but there was an
Could I
additional.
have a
There was an
qualification?
additional cost because that filter room fell in because of the past soil problem, and that was explained to council before, and I think that was an additional $38,000. But you've got a whole bunch of different budgets within that budget.
Yes, I understand that, but
But essentially, we're on budget.
so we're not spent 38,000. Could we not have? Look, I don't know. The art's beautiful. I have to say that Carmen's done a good job choosing the art. It looks wonderful, but I sort of think sometimes we put the pretties in there.
That's got nothing to do with the pool. That's actually part of Big River Dreaming, and that's the
Well,
amenities
there's still a
building.
budget though,
Yeah, and it's within the budget for the Big River Dreaming budget.
and it's within budget.
Yeah, for the
I'm
amenities
just saying,
building.
I'm not, I think it's a great piece of art that she's chosen, really nice art. But I just hope that we're in budget for it, because it's a big project and it
It is,
looks to be growing quite
it is. And the same, the path that's down from the
on two.
pool down to the
It's part of Big River
pontoon, that's all within budget. So is the pontoon. And the amenities building has now, I think they could even be starting today, I'm not sure about laying the slab for it. And that looks as though it's going to come in under budget actually, so.
Oh, so that'll pick up the 38,000
Well,
over budget.
I don't know how we can change one from one grant to the other, but we're trying to do that, yeah.
Councillor Smith.
Just going on from what Catherine said, when we're costing these things, do we add a bit more for, because everything we do, it blows out? Do we?
That's 38,000, yeah, that took
I know
up,
it's only
no, but it
38,000.
took up a lot of the contingency that we did have embedded in it because, like we had a set price contract with the person doing the work. Now even there, because of the closure of the Queensland border, he's having trouble getting people to come across to work
Yeah.
because if they come across to work, they've got to be quarantined 14 days when they go back into Queensland. And so he's had to, find other people of suitable quality, in his opinion, from New South Wales. So that hasn't led to any changes in the price, but it could, and that would be a direct consequence of COVID, nothing to do with the council.
Councillor Smith, I think an overall comment, and I've been following this, is that the first initial round of funding that we had, was it last year?
Round one of community.
Yeah,
strong-
that went over, and since then everything's been within budget.
Yeah. I mean, it's, when we do our own budget ourselves, we always sort of, we can't budget for COVID-19, but
Yeah.
every time we do something, it seems to run over a bit, so
Yeah.
obviously, anyway.
A question to Leo. I was talking to you the other day about this. The number of employees you've got there, 198,
164.
is that full-time?
No, that's just bodies.
What's the full-time equivalent number?
We're still around that 164, 65.
Right.
Yeah. So payroll for each fortnight is usually around that 190, but it could be people that work for a few hours or
Yeah,
a
okay.
couple of days.
Because when I first read this, I thought it was referring, not that figure, but I thought the days off for injury was referring to Nauru, and I thought that's over a month. But that's the whole organisation. Yeah.
Nauru Kitchen has come under budget as well, and we're looking to do other improvements at Nauru with the money that's left over, so that's a bit exciting.
That's excellent.
And they're in there and using it. It's fully grant funded, so
And it's working well?
yes.
Staff are happy with it?
Yeah,
And that's
staff
good.
were part of the planning.
Yep.
It was a really good process to go through. There were stakeholder meetings. The staff actually had more input than management in what they needed and how it was going to work, and looking at, they went and visited another commercial kitchen in an aged care facility and looked at what works for them and how they can make savings with the way they purchase by how they can store food. And it's been a wonderful process, and the builder was extraordinary. He was a very good operator.
Very good.
Mm.
Good.
The furniture looks nice. Like I've seen, they've got a Facebook page that they put up. I think that's good too because it shows the residents happy and
Absolutely, and that was donated by the committee. They're
Yeah.
active.
it looks, yeah, looks good.
Councillor Young, there's a
Yeah,
question.
I just wanted to probably commend the council staff that assisted that young family that was quarantined at the caravan park in Morialda. Yeah, were they a local family or?
They were a family trying to get into Queensland, to move to Queensland from Victoria.
Yep.
And even though they had what they felt were the appropriate papers, they were turned away,
They had to come back.
told to quarantine, and then of course there was a hard closure,
Yeah.
and the police and the council worked together to get them across the border. Yeah,
Oh, I think that's really good. Yeah.
One of the children actually had additional needs, so it was quite a challenge for the family, and it's a nice thing that council were able to
Yeah.
do that.
Well done.
Any other questions? No? Well, could I have a mover of the recommendation, please? Councillor Gelman, the seconder. Councillor Smith. Put that motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's no carried. Now we'll move on to monthly technical services report. Thanks, Alex.
Okay, we're into full swing with construction on our unsealed network and our regional network. Nothing particularly groundbreaking happening on there, bar turning dirt, I suppose. Just about to start another state road project north of Bingra. We had a staff induction with RMS on the Transport for New South Wales on that site yesterday. Taking advantage of some moisture and maintenance grading where we can at the moment. Happy to take any questions on the rest.
Have you received the finance for the Upper Horton Road?
No. You'll note one of the first points in the report is that our works program's under revision. It will be until we get the announcement when that funding will be available.
Councillor Galvin?
I just want to commend you on the road when I drove to Warialda to Cranky Rock, that new piece of road. That's
Good.
good.
Any other questions? The engineer's going to get off lightly.
McInroy Fire Shed's going ahead beautifully. I had a look at it yesterday.
Where is it?
McInroy Fire Shed.
Yes.
This isn't on the report, but more recently we've had a little bit of a setback in our negotiations about the native title on the bypass.
Oh, really?
What we've decided to do is to progress actually going around lot 317 and starting the action to get the licence from the Crown to build the road actually around lot 317. Because I think it's reached a point where the requests are becoming a little bit unreasonable.
And further to that, the restrictions on meetings due to COVID have meant that progress over the last 3 months has been basically zero, despite the best intentions of all parties involved. I had a conversation with our legal people who are dealing with the acquisition of that lot 317 yesterday. They too are of the opinion now that going round is looking like the sensible option. There may be some implications in doing so regarding acquisition of land that is not that is outside the road reserve. So surrounding the truck wash, it may be that that entire parcel of land, which there may have been some future plans for, may not be able to be acquired until the native title process sees itself out. Going down this path of detouring lot 317 doesn't mean we won't ever be able to buy it. It would mean that we either continue with the process as we are, but it's not urgent because we don't need to build a road, or alternatively we abandon the Indigenous land use agreements if that's feasible, and wait for the native title determination on that lot to be made in due course.
And I think that further to that explanation is that there's been a request for a revaluation of the land, and there's been a request for compensation for meetings up to $70,000.
Yes.
75.
So that it's got out of hand. I mean, I think it was probably 2 years ago we called a special meeting, and I was absolutely determined to go around this lot 317, and then we decided that was foolish. Now it is so frustrating to think it's gone on all this time and we're going to go back and go around it. No, I don't think there's any other way. I think we have to go around it. Councillor Dick, yes.
Mr Mayor, thinking back, aren't we going to run into the same problem with native title on the new way we go?
We will, but we believe that Crown Land will give us a licence to build the road, so that can be built and all that can be sorted out while it's being built or after. And that's what the frustration is with lot 317. We can't get a licence to build the road, so it has to just sit. And, the idea is to get the thing going. We're looking very silly in the eye of the public.
So we will need to
I
approach.
presume that, Max, you said it was in the court and there was going to be a court ruling on this.
The current problem isn't with the federal claim. The current issue that we're confronted with is with the state legislation, with the Moree Lands Council. They have a new
Elder.
or chief executive officer, I suppose he is, and they raised something that I'd never even heard of about a community, what was that, the community compensation fund too, that
I don't recall, sorry Max.
Max, can you go there again and tell us that? Because I thought, my understanding was the Moree Lands Council, Aboriginal Lands Council were on side with us and that we'd cleared all the hurdles with them.
Until now.
we had.
Until now, and they've
We
come
have.
back at
They've made a
us.
list of demands.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Dick.
Mr Mayor, so if we do this alternate route, will Alex be able to line the bridge up, and what
Yes.
sort of
Yes, we'll-
road are we going?
Oh, we're not sure, really. I mean, we're testing him.
I mean, we're going to have a pimple on the
We
side
are.
of the road for big trucks to go around?
It's
or
not quite as
how's
bad as that.
going
We'll
to
let
happen?
Alex explain.
No, so we're, Amy Boydell, our engineering projects coordinator, has done quite a good job of producing a alignment that takes us to the east of the affected lot and essentially skirts the outside of it without having to lose too much of anything we've cleared or built. So north of Grarjean Road, where we've got a cleared corridor stopping at lot 317, most of that could be used. Yes, it's going to look like we've gone out and round a lot we can't get access to,
exactly
but
Yeah.
we're going to get access. It would be land we could get access to.
Mr Mayor, could councillors have a map of this please, before the council start to do anything like this? I mean, we're all of the opinion we were going on 317 now.
Councillor
all
Dick,
of a
can I
sudden-
suggest to you that we're going to look at the commercial hotel this afternoon, we could continue on after that and have a look at the road. Would that be better? Were you planning to go over and look at the hotel?
No.
No.
I have a draft plan set that I knocked together yesterday afternoon that I'm happy to pass around.
Yeah, okay.
Got a map here if you want to see it, I think.
Yes, Councillor Dick?
Mr Mayor, how will this affect our industrial area at Warriol? Are we going to have an industrial area and then a forest on the side of it?
No,
Or how's that all happen?
I'm suggesting, actually, or what we're going to do is continue down the Indigenous Land Use Agreement path, but open up the road as quickly as we can. So just let that process continue. It can take as long as they like. We don't care then. But we would still like to eventually purchase lot 317 to add it into the industrial area. We'd also eventually like to buy all the land where the road corridor is and the truck wash, but the other side of the road, because there's the opportunity for some kind of service centre there. So that process will still continue, but in the interim, we've got that, and I think if we say that to the Aboriginal claimants, then that will take away a lot of any anxiety they might have about the fact that we're seeking a licence to go around lot 317. The big losers potentially in all this are Moree Aboriginal Lands Council, because they're the ones that need the money, and they're the ones now that are, like, they're asking for potentially compensation, which is just to hold meetings, which is equal to what we valued the land at.
That's right.
Oh, it's just absolutely crazy. And I think we've had enough craziness.
Councillor Young?
Yeah, Max, I just wanted to ask, so you're saying if we go around lot 317, the land there is not affected by any state ownership, so it's only Crown land, and we will be able to get a licence to build on the
Vacant Crown land, it may well have a federal native title claim over it,
Yep.
but the state government has got the ability to issue a licence for a public infrastructure like a road, and that's what we would be after.
And see, the lot 317 is owned by the Moree
Yeah,
Aboriginal Lands
yeah.
Council, and it also has a federal
Yep.
claim.
But
So
yeah, there's two
it's
claims
very
on it.
complicated. Yeah. Councillor Egan?
Could I just ask, have we already paid for that land?
No,
We haven't? Okay. Well, I thought we may have early
No, they
day.
want a revaluation here.
no, we haven't paid for that land, no.
And our first understanding was that they would have wrapped this in August this year, and now we're not even.
Well, it's like Alex said, the claimants won't meet because of COVID. So that's,
And this was to be us.
it's just
time that-
impossible now. So that the alternative is to go around, and we should have done that at the beginning.
We should have done it.
So, Mr.
Yes, Councillor Moore?
Mr. Mayor, what additional costs are we up for going around it?
Probably be a couple of $100,000 extra cost, but we'll pay for that out of our roads budget, by not doing other works.
Councillor Colton?
Just getting off that part of it, I'm just wondering, question to Alex, of where we're up to with the truck wash.
We've commissioned a detailed design of sludge lagoons, of which I discussed at the last meeting. SMK consultants from Moree, following the fire break meeting last week, inspected the site to complete their review of environmental factors for that project. As soon as that review has been received by us and Max has approved it, we can commence construction. Those sludge lagoons aren't particularly complicated, with the exception of some clay lining and security fencing. It's essentially building a dam. I would hope that once we have that green light from the review of environmental factors, it would be 6 to 8 weeks to construct.
No, I just feel that it should be put out there that this is what we're doing and why, because in light of the fairly damning letter that was which I took particular exception to, I just think maybe we should be telling the people that's, because I've been asked the question on a couple of occasions as to why it hasn't been opened, and I've explained because of the
EPA.
too much solids in the
Yep.
water to go through the system, but I think maybe we should be putting that out there so that
Something else that these sludge lagoons will allow us to do is recycle water, whether it's back into the facility or whether it's for use for irrigation or something of the sort somewhere near the facility. There's been a reasonable degree of community concern regarding water usage of the site, so I think that it is a big tick in the favour of the sludge lagoons that we will be able to do that.
Jeff, did you have, Councillor Smith, did you have?
Yeah, just another one, Alex, just going back to if we've got to go around that 317, there's going to be a fairly sharp bend at the back there, isn't it?
No, the designs, so the speed limit for the bypass as agreed by by Transport for New South Wales was 80 kilometres an hour. The curve at the northeastern end of the alignment, we could get to a 70 kilometre an hour design, which is not at all unusual for an 80 kilometre an hour road. The out and around, for want of a better term, that would be on the southern lot of lot 317, where we've cleared north of Grarjean Road. Those curves are 80 kilometre an hour, quite comfortably.
Yeah, right. It's a pity we couldn't just get a bit of a corner of that 317.
Yeah, or we'd be in exactly the same boat whether we wanted to take a sliver of it or the whole thing.
I understand that, yeah. It should be, this should be put on bloody 60 minutes or something, I reckon. Jesus, yeah. Frustrating, isn't it?
It just goes to that motion that we're taking to the conference, that how important that motion is.
Yes.
Yeah. Just an extraordinary.
It's something that I certainly hope to put it out to the public as wide as we possibly can when it's all over. But I don't think now's the time.
Mr Mayor, another question. How do all the, when they build the, expressways and things like that, how do they get around
They
native
pay
title?
them off, Councillor Moore.
Pay them off.
That's half our trouble,
Councillor,
is that the RMS or the authorities that building highways just got a massive budget and they just pay their way through as they go. And so they've set a standard, and same with the mining companies, they do the same thing.
Yeah.
So that we're expected to meet that standard, we can't afford it. Is there any other questions on that?
So is the ponds at the truck wash going to be more cost as well?
Not to the bypass budget. There's probably $80,000 in that construction, which will be funded from the sewer fund.
Oh, yeah, that's good. So
Yes, Councillor Young.
when it's all a little bit more firmer, we'll get a report and a map and all those sorts of
Yes.
things, yeah,
Yes.
which will be, I think, handy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just-
I agree. I mean, here we are sitting here, this is the first I've heard of it. We haven't got a late item, Max, with this or
That's because it's
anything
brand,
like
It's
that.
only
that's
just
how
It happened
new,
yesterday.
that's how new the news is.
Wow.
What did you say yesterday?
Yeah, well, yesterday we discussed it.
Yeah, we
The
did.
day before was
Yeah,
when we.
yeah. So it wasn't possible, Councillor Dick, but I find it extremely disappointing that we have to go back and go around it. I think it's a farce, really. It's nobody here's fault. Councillor
That's
Gillard.
what I was going to say when you said it's nobody's his fault. I think it should be put out there in a way that it can be that it is nobody's his fault, and the person that is now doing it is copping the flack and trying to pick up the pieces, and it's very.
I got thick skin.
Yeah, I know, but
Councillor Galvin, I would think that to avoid too much conflict, when it's reported in the paper, the COVID will be blamed, and we'll do it that way, because if we start,
Political.
oh no, I don't mean
Yeah.
no, I don't mean that. I'm just saying as long as everybody knows here that somebody's trying to pick up the pieces and it's hard for them. Like
Yeah,
we
okay.
think the decision's hard, but it's hard for somebody that's trying to
Councillor
fix
Dick.
something.
Mr Mayor, tell me, are we getting a permission as a corridor to go through here, or will we get, a 100-metre length beside 317?
I'll refer that to Al.
Sorry, are you referring to the alternate route we're discussing?
Yes.
So if that's done under subdivision K of the Native Title Act, it would be just a road corridor.
So on the eastern side, it'll just be bush.
Eastern side of the
of the
proposed
new-
alternate, yes, it would
Yeah.
be.
Black pine. Councillor Moore?
Mr Mayor, to Max, what sort of money were we up for to pay the Aboriginal claim? Like, was it the 300,000, 200,000?
No, the lot 317 was, the estimate we had was 80,000,
85.
around 80, or it might have been 85, and the federal claim would have got, I think, 75% of the valuation as well, so we would have paid for it twice.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had the other land that we were looking at purchasing under the Indigenous Land Use Agreement as well, and that hadn't been valued yet because the native title hadn't been lifted.
And it's not so much about the cost of the land to purchase, it's the legal costs along the way
know.
to
Yeah,
get to
no,
that
that's what I'm
point.
trying to get at, what sort of cost we're up for. Like, we're getting, the bypass is getting pretty close to sort of 1.82 million bucks
And the rest,
out of
yeah.
budget.
I think what Alex and Max are trying to say though, that can continue to pile up. The cost of the bypass will continue to pile up, and it could be 3 years before we even look like having a road. If we go this way, I imagine that the road will be built within the term of this council, and it'll be done. There's nothing more, it looks dreadful. The bits that are done are falling away, and we have a big gap in the middle, and it's not a good look, and this is a way around it, and it's the most cost-effective and practical way, and we've tried every option that we've had before us to get lot 317, and it's just not possible.
I think that should be well publicised.
Yeah.
Oh,
Too, that
Yep.
that's what's happened because.
And don't we have to pay so much per person per meeting or something like that as well? Like that's on top of
That
it?
was with the federal claimants.
Yes, and now the state people want the same.
They want the same.
Yeah,
and
so
the-
we've got that on top of
The
it.
federal claimants' expenses were capped at 50 grand. But the local lands council is saying it could be up to 70,000 for them. But I think we're taken for a ride.
and will the goalposts continue to be changed? You know, will they, who knows, there's no,
Well, we thought when we sort of went
Precedent.
down the lot of 317, when we discussed it earlier, that we were making the best decision because we'd already
Well,
invested.
until
so much
COVID,
money.
I think we were well on track to
Yeah.
achieve the timeline we had. And we were at the point where the draft Indigenous Land Use Agreement
Yep.
had been signed off by the legal advisors to the native title claimants, the state government and us. All it needed was a meeting of the claimants to sign it off to send it to the court. That meeting was never held then because of the COVID conditions about the number of people that could meet,
Yeah.
and that derailed the entire thing, and it has been now derailed for months based on that. And
I don't know why the meeting couldn't have been a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, and
mean,
why
I
can't you
can't-
send the documents via
Why can't,
courier or
they
something?
don't they know how to use Zoom?
Well,
Same as a lot of other people.
I don't know the reason.
Goes a fair bit deeper than
Flick me.
It's more
Yeah.
political than that.
general
We know who's running the
Aboriginal problem
country.
at the moment, I think that's hard for.
yeah,
Well, I drove the whole thing yesterday, went in one end,
The
went
bypass.
as far as I could, came back the other way.
Oh, no,
And-
you can go right around.
I know,
it
but
and you
we're in
get
the
lost.
car and I thought I might get bogged in the sand.
Max and I have been lost 6 times up there.
And I just thought that it is making us look quite idiotic.
yeah.
And it's time we took it, and I'm really happy to hear this decision.
And can also say we did explore going to the west on our own land, but the trouble is
It's a huge part, isn't it, of the...
a little bit of that land is in private ownership, and it'd also take us closer to the houses. And after we had a lot of public consultation about where the road should go, so it's the simplest answer is to go to the east, not to the west. So
So is, are our members
Yeah.
well aware of what's happening?
Who's that?
Well,
The
Mark
local
and-
members?
And.
Oh, they've
Adam?
been
Well-
thoroughly briefed all the way. They
Yeah.
wouldn't be up to date with this latest
No.
development.
no, but we've written and asked for a meeting with the Premier about it. Hadn't had any response at all. In fact, the only response we got is that they referred it off to the federal government. Our issue isn't with the federal government here. Our issue about Lot 317 is with the ridiculous state legislation that stops the Aboriginal people dealing in that land because of a federal claim.
That no other states have.
No.
Well, yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear that we're
It's a
going to
debacle.
progress it in
Why
our
don't
own
we go,
way.
why don't we go a little bit harder on this, like,
Well, Kelly, we can't go any harder. There's been a lot going on. It's some time ago now, but I was in contact with Max, with federal agencies, or state agencies, I should say, and their hands are tied. They can't do anything, and they suggested that when it's all over, that we do make it known what we've had to go through. We've had, what was this? What was his name? The ex-army bloke that the state government employed.
The Crown Land Commissioner.
No. He went off at the last election. He wasn't. He used to go to mayoral meetings, country mayor meetings. Head of army, ex-head of army. I can't think of his name. But anyway, he was employed by the state government to make sure that grants and things went through quickly. During the previous term of the state government, and we had him and his team working on it, and they couldn't do any good.
And Curly, you remember we were at the state conference last year and they railroaded us with it was a snow job from the beginning to the end. There's not much we can
I think, I can remember saying, even back when Rich was here, for Christ's sake, don't lose the ability to go around it. And it's come to that now, and I think we should go as quickly as we can to get the money.
I think you're right,
and then open it up to and tell everyone, make sure everyone realises what we've had to go through.
I agree 100% with
I
that.
agree with you too.
That's exactly what we need to do.
Councillor Dick, are you satisfied with all this, or have you got more questions?
Mr Mayor, I am disappointed to be here and be hit with this, but I do understand that you guys have only heard of it sort of yesterday and the day before. It needs to be discussed within council, and so we can move forward. I mean, we need some written evidence of how we're moving forward.
Well, I think that's what we're doing right now, and I believe the sentiment is to take that bypass, go on the eastern side of Lot 317.
Mr Mayor, before we move further into that, could we have written support from Crown Lands to say that they won't impede us in any way? We don't want to start working there and find that Crown Lands are going to do it.
So the phone call that I had yesterday with Craig Barnes from Land Advisory Services was to establish any possible roadblocks that we, pardon the pun, that we may have to taking this alternate route. So Craig's going to bring it back to me, a summary of the steps that we have to go through to take this alternate route. Once I have that, we'll put together a report which will be presented.
Yes, Councillor Dick.
Mr Mayor, I think we should have a motion put forward by Max that, that the councillors have been informed on this and that we either approve or disapprove of it.
I think that if there's any motion, it has to come from an elected member. But I would welcome if you have something in mind to take it. I was just going to add to that it seems to me the feeling in the room is that we need to go around Lot 317, and I think from there on we leave it in the capable hands of our staff. But if you've got any other ideas, I'm happy to hear them.
Well, Mr Mayor, I'd like to ask Max if he could help in this motion, say that the councillors have discussed the possibility of going around Lot 317 and that we give permission for Max to move forward on this matter.
All right, so we'll note that in the recommendation. It'll become part of the officer recommendation, if you like.
Can I also, what I was talking about before was, they've also raised for the first time, this is the first time we'd heard about it, 2 days ago, of a community development levy that may be payable by the council. as a result of purchasing lot 317.
You go around it, we'd have to worry about that.
No, if we don't purchase it, we don't, no.
Do you want me to put a motion?
Well, I was going to take councillor Dick's words, if you're happy with that, as part of the recommendation. Is that, the meeting happy to do that?
Yeah.
Which is probably virtually what you were going to say anyway.
I'm happy to move that addition to the
Recommendation.
director's report.
I think we've got to
Thank
get
you,
something done.
councillor Colton, and a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded here, councillor Egan. Is there any other discussion?
Mr Mayor, can I just ask another question? Does 317 go right to the road, or is it just that corner block?
Goes right to the road,
Yeah, right.
the northern part, you mean?
You mean the bypass road?
Yeah.
From the Coolatai Road right through to where the original bypass is.
That's Mick,
That's Mick Davis there.
Joins the industrial block?
No, it's to the east.
Yeah, it's only half, it's only the corner of the road is 317.
Yeah, where the
road turns and goes down to the creek,
Yes.
there's a block there, it's called 317.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can develop Mick Davis's area for
Well,
an
no,
industrial block.
we're going the other way, going east.
Yeah.
It's going to go on the eastern side of 317. So there'll be 317, then the industrial block.
He's getting that.
Yeah, right.
Could we still please get a map and a report?
Yeah, well,
at some
maybe we
stage,
can get
yeah.
one run off.
that's,
And
that's
report.
317, that's square there.
Down to there.
Because that blowout
Well,
of that
I'm
is
saying
going
this
to mean there'll be a lot of other roads
That's
that
Mick
won't be
Davis's
done,
block there in
doesn't
the
it?
corner.
Well, it will
We can
impact on
develop
the
that
road
as an
program.
industrial
Well,
block
that's
if we
ours,
have to.
is.
But I think,
Instead of, forget about the
I
black.
think on the other hand, we're getting a fair bit of grant money for roads,
Well,
which
Yeah,
would have been
well-
limiting our ability to actually achieve all that anyway, so.
But we can't have a
Don't give them any
three-part
money, don't.
finished bypass.
No.
No, we cannot. It's just so sad.
Be on
Alex,
with it.
could you arrange for that to be printed during the meeting and handed out? Your
Yes.
map of the alteration, please? Okay, I've got a mover and a seconder. Is there any more questions?
Does that include the additional?
Yes.
Or just, want me to read out?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
That the councillors note the discussions being held to seek a licence from the state to construct the missing link of the Warriata bypass without using lot 317.
I'm sure that's what I said.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
I thought it was said very well.
Just-
That's what I heard.
It just sounds like you, councillor. All right, if you're all happy, I'll put that motion then. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no, carried. Thank you. Item 4, the monthly investment rates collection report. Thanks, Helen.
So my report's not quite as exciting as the bypass. It's just the
Thank goodness.
standard,
Boy,
the
I'm sure we
standard
can find
report.
something.
There's a bit of,
I can take any questions. Rates collection is down for July from last year, but up from the prior year. I think you'll find they'll probably drop off for the next few months because there's zero interest charged on overdue rates until December.
Yeah.
So there's no need for people to be paying their rates on time. So if they read their rates notice and saw that, we may see a reduction in that until December. And then everyone will probably catch up on their rates.
I think that's a good move, really, especially for the grain farmers, and they'll have a check by then.
Yeah.
hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, so. Finance is in the throes of getting the statements done. They're in draft format and we have the auditors on site in 2 weeks to do our end of year audit. So we're all on track for
Yes.
that to all be done.
Good. Any questions of Helen on her report? Helen, councillor Moore, mate?
I spoke to Max about this the other day, but there's no difference in ratings between Warriella and, in residential between Warriella and Bigger, is there?
Yes, there is.
There's a difference in valuation.
There
Only in
is.
valuations, yeah, I know, but the actual dollar,
But isn't it?
The ad valorum's the same.
No, the ad
No, it's
valorum's
not. It's
different.
Oh, isn't it?
No, the ad
It's
valorums are different.
Yeah.
It was,
Is that
the,
from the value
I can-
general?
pardon?
Does that happen because of the value general?
No, that's our calculations that we
Okay.
use to have the rating structure equitable between houses in Warriata and Bingra. It's in the,
It's here
Um,
somewhere.
it was in the documents that had to be adopted in the
Yeah.
statement of revenue. It's got the 10 different categories that we use?
That was because of the high valuation of the Bingra town, yeah.
So the ad valorem, it's lower in Warialda than it is in Bingra. Ours is
No, it's higher in Warialda
Higher
because
in
the
Warialda
land
than
valuations are lower in Warialda than in Bingra.
Yeah.
So that the rating value of a home in Bingra is equitable to the rating value of a house in Warialda. We use the ad valorems to make that equitable.
because I was trying to make sense of them.
Yeah, I think there's 10 different categories because we did add the intensive farmland a few years ago, so that they pay a much higher ad valorem than general farmland do.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just talking about the residential.
Oh, actually,
Value because, I'll talk to you about it later, who it is later anyway.
bloody expensive.
Yeah, he just said his valuation Warialda is, UV's 55,000 and Bingra's 43 or something.
Yep.
And he said there's a fair bit of difference in the rateable value.
Well, so the land valuation comes from the value general. That's got
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
to do with
that's
us.
right, yeah.
That's the value that we use with the ad valorem to work out what the rates are,
Yeah.
and we can alter the ad valorems, but the land value has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
So
true.
the ad valorem here in
Oh,
Bingo,
anyway, that's all right, I'll talk to you about that later anyway, that's.
and I couldn't work out, I don't know what it means, but it's 0.0144093. For Warialda, it is 0.0216643.
Higher.
So,
It's higher because our land valuation's
Yeah.
lower.
so that's why it's higher, because I was wondering why it was higher, because it is higher.
Because I remember when
I thought they were
we had Mum's house,
That's well, I know.
it was about half the
I know.
size of my block and worth twice as much.
Better to live in Bingo.
No.
I don't know.
No, it's because the houses,
Dearer, but
everything's,
but
yeah.
according to them, Bingo is a better place than Warialda.
Well, for land sales, yeah.
Land
From what
sales are.
the value general sees, and that's what it's based on. It's all based, every year, every time it gets revalued, it's based on sales
Yep.
figures. And people can object to those land valuations when they come through. They can go, and that's what drives your rate,
Yeah,
your rates.
anyway.
Any other questions? No? Can I have a motion?
I'm happy to move
The
on.
recommendation, please.
Francis Young moved.
Councillor Young and Councillor Smith. Put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Item 5, regional road transfer and road classification review.
Alex.
Alex, please.
Busy boy, Alex.
Yeah, yeah. So this one follows on from an election commitment from the state government to take back up to 15,000 kilometres of regional roads to state control. The first round for nominations from councils closes in about 30 days. Our deadline on that has been pushed back. There's a bit to consider in whether or not we want to get rid of these roads. As pointed out in the report, the reduction in depreciation and the maintenance liability would be a significant win for council. However, if we were to lose our block grant, or if there were any reductions in the local roads component of the FAGS grant or roads to recovery, it could be a negative effect, negative impact on council. The recommendation basically says that we should transfer everything to state control that we can, on the basis that our funding levels are maintained and that levels of service are maintained. Some of these roads would be fantastic from my perspective to not have to worry about, and the primary one of those is North Star Road. It swallows about $1.1 million of our $2 million block grant and repair program every year, which is significant. And it makes up only about 30% of the entire regional road network. The entire process is going to take place over as long as 5 years. There have been no deadlines given for the complete handover of the whole up to 15,000 kilometres. Part of the process is a reclassification. and there may be benefits if council's able to get some of our local roads upgraded to regional road status, whether or not we keep control of them or hand control over to the state. Copeton Dam Road is probably the only road within the LGA which may meet regional road status that is currently a local road. So it's included in the recommendation for request for reclassification. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor, sorry, Councillor Carlton.
63.
Yes.
Regional Road 63. What have you, any indication, because that was previously a state road, before it was regionalised, any indication what Inverell's doing?
Inverell's position is to transfer everything to state control.
Right. So we haven't included 63.
Sorry?
We haven't included 63 as one of our priorities.
Not as a priority transfer, no.
It'll be all the roads with those priorities, correct?
Yes, all the roads, but the nominations to the priority transfer at this stage of the recommendation was for North Star Road and for Bruxner Way.
That's right.
It's 462, the Bruxner Road.
It is, yes.
The Bruxner is, I reckon, a foregone conclusion because there's, what, 4 councils which
Yes.
will be pushing it. I think, Alex, we need to express the concerns of losing money to the council, and we don't want that to happen. I don't know that it will, but it could, couldn't it?
Yes, yeah, there's a risk. I think that this initiative was put in place to relieve maintenance burdens on councils. So the whole motive behind this was to make it easier for us. So I would be surprised if the net result was that we ended up with less staff and less money, but the potential still exists.
Yeah, you've expressed that in your recommendation, and I don't think we can do much more than that. We're only one council in a sea of councils, aren't we?
Speaking with my counterparts at our neighbouring councils, there seems to be a very consistent view among engineering staff that yes, let the state have control of a lot of them, but on the condition that we don't lose out.
And with the JO.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Both JOs.
Yeah.
And Alex, there's a fair chance that we'd still get the work in that to maintain those roads?
Yeah, I think it'd be impractical to think that another council or a private contractor is going to come and carry out maintenance works on any of the roads within our shire, and the regular rehabilitation works probably aren't of the scale that would attract a private contractor to do them either.
I think it'd be political suicide for the state government to do that.
Yeah. There's already a fairly firm commitment that council gets the first bite of the cherry for works on state roads within the council, within the local government area. So I would expect that similar commitment would move forward under with the regional roads.
I think the concern is that there's a pot of money, and that we're expecting that for the roads they take back for them to fund, we're a bit concerned that funding might come out of the existing pot of money anyway. It probably won't be additional money.
There's 132 up at Horton Road.
It's McIntyre Road.
Any other questions?
I'll move the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
I'll second it.
Move Councillor Colton.
I'll second
Take
it.
it somewhere else. No, I'm going to go Councillor Moore for a second. Yeah. I'll put that recommendation, or the motion of the recommendation. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I was going to, we'll try and
6.8.
try and aim for morning tea at 10:30. Keep going. What did you say?
6.8, that $100 for your concern.
Oh, on the next one, I'm going too far. The code of conduct. Yeah. The only thing I wanted to mention there was that the value of a gift given to a councillor be in line with the state government representative.
because we're inundated with tickets.
Well, it's not really applying, but you know what I mean. I don't see why
It's fair for us.
I think it was 50 for us and 100 for them, and I'd like to, and we can do that today.
It's included as a recommendation.
Yeah. So that was does anyone else have anything on that?
No.
This is item 6. I think we're very fortunate in this council for this, at this present time anyway, we don't have too much call on a code of conduct, but you have to have one, obviously.
Yeah.
So that needs to be mentioned, doesn't it, in our motion?
What?
That-
If you
If
just
we adopt
adopt,
that
if you
report.
adopt
Oh,
it,
okay.
it's included in
Right,
there.
If there's no more questions, I'll ask for a mover. Councillor Egan and Councillor Galvin, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no, carried. The next one is item 7 on 162. L'Oreal fire break.
Requirements, just keep people in line, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I'm just going for a walk.
Yep. Councillor Smith, would you like to kick off this with the fire break?
Yeah, I can, as you know, we had a meeting last week? Last Thursday?
Last
I
Wednesday.
think it was.
At Warrialda, we had Scott Mack, the RFS bloke, and another RFS. We had the LLS and a girl from the Crown Lands at Moree all there. I think with the whole meeting, I was a little bit disappointed at the end of it that we didn't sort of, we're still banging our heads against the wall. It came up time after time the other day there where, and it's not the fault of Scott or the people, but it's just the regulations that we're up against. I don't know, Max might want to say more about it all, but I just felt we didn't get anywhere much with it all, but since then, obviously, there's been with the state government now virtually going along with all the recommendations from the inquiry into the bushfires. The main, I think the first one they said, and the one they've emphasised as much, was the clearing around homesteads and whatnot, and even I heard on the radio or the TV the other day that Roy Rogers was, or whatever his name is, Rob Rogers. The first thing he said was that that there were houses that the fireys couldn't get onto because of, and he was sort of saying, well, that was a big thing. We've got to look at the clearing. So that was pretty encouraging. So I don't know what happens from now on. I guess we've got to wait and.
Well, what I got from that meeting to start with, I think that the RFS guys almost felt as though we were going to attack them. Like they were defensive to start with. I think they improved a little bit as the meeting went on, but the impression I got is that I don't think there was any objection to what we wanted to do, although the RFS indicated that in a very severe fire they weren't sure that a 150 metre break was all that significant, but I think for most fires it would be, and it has certainly enhanced our chances to save properties. But what also out of the meeting I got that Vicky from Crown Lands was saying that we should move forward on expanding exactly what we want, outlining, doing an assessment of the environmental outcomes and making a submission to Crown Lands to actually move forward on the clearing, and I think we should get SMK to do that. SMK coming back with an outline project of how they could do that. Anyone that would like a copy of the 442-page report that Councillor Smith just mentioned, please let me know. I don't want to do one for everyone if you don't want it. But
Can't we get an executive summary?
Well, there
there is a summary. Yes, there is a summary, but sometimes it's.
I wouldn't be
better.
too worried about it.
I'm not going to read it all.
to get the report, but I can give you a copy, yeah, certainly the executive summary and the recommendations. And one of the recommendations certainly refers to endangered towns and how we protect them, and Warriella certainly satisfies that criteria. And I'm assuming that the council are happy to progress with SMK to work up a submission to Crown Lands. That's the impression I got from the attendees at the meeting.
I think the other thing is that the door knock proved successful in what, you had 3 negatives out of the whole.
Yeah, 5 now, we've got 5, but
Right, so that's encouraging, and, well, you were saying, Max, you thought it was a pretty good PR exercise as well.
yeah, I think it was, and I did from Stephen Street west down to Reedy Creek, that whole area there, and of the residents that were home, only 3 mentioned issues about council. One of them was she wanted her curb and gutter swept more often, and I established that we had a problem with the street sweeper. That was why it hadn't been done. That was in High Street, I think. Yeah. And the other 2 were about wanting to know more about the commercial hotel. But after I spoke to them, they seemed to be pretty happy with what the council did. Interestingly, a number of people indicated that they hadn't received our letter, which is a little bit disappointing because we posted them. We had names and addresses on them. So I don't know about whether they just didn't make it into the house for some reason. That was a small number.
Max, well, you know, the ones that were, the 5 that were a little bit against it, what was their main argument? What was it?
Well, I didn't actually come across anyone,
and were they the ones on the edge?
I did in Cublala Street or?
Palava.
No,
Okay, and
Palmer.
they just like the bushland.
I think that.
And I tell you what, they're in danger.
Well, I was talking to Kathy McGregor, who's she was all for it. I don't know, but she was frightened as anything through all that fight.
Well, I know 2 of them, 2 of the ones that didn't want it were right backed up onto the bush.
Yeah.
And can I tell you what, one of them too that didn't want it, according to the sheet, that I didn't do that house, but according to the sheet, they had other issues with the council, I'd say, which probably clouded their judgment.
Well, maybe we can, there were ones that, I know with Robert Small was, I don't know whether he was one of the ones that,
I don't know.
but, I mean, it's not going to be mad at, if he wants to live up there, he's away from the rest of it anyway. Maybe even with Calabar Avenue, if there's ones there, we might be able to just leave a bit of scrub and have a break a bit further up.
Well, the other thing is, survey like that, never get 100%.
No, for sure. I was surprised.
I thought it was a good result.
I think it's an excellent result.
And, you know,
No, I think it was good.
I think it was a well worthwhile exercise, and I'd like to record my thanks for the other 7 staff members that worked. We knocked it over in a day. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I think
I'd like to acknowledge you as well, Max, for putting yourself out there.
Yep.
Which is not something a lot of other GMs would do, but going and walking around you.
I've got to say, Leah thought I might come in for some abuse, but I disguised
I
myself.
did advise against it and then had hoped he didn't wear a name badge.
Has he still got that wig he had on?
I agree with Dave. I think it was good.
Yeah,
It was well
that's a
done.
very good move.
do you think that the fire, what are we doing? What are they doing? An investigation into those fires. The report from that will actually benefit this, I think.
I think it will.
Yeah, I think so, because they, I've only listened to it, I haven't read any, but they have said that more clearing will be allowed, which is exactly what this council was trying to do for Warrialda, just to do more clearing around that area. Yeah, so
I don't know what our next move is with that.
Well, our next move, I think, is work with SMK to come up with a proper strategy. And one of the people, like when I was recording all the results from all the other people, like there was a couple of people wanted me to call them back, like they had their mobile numbers down, which I did call them back. One of them was in Queen Street, and his house backed onto a reserve, basically, but it's a reserve the council's got a licence over. And he was concerned about the potential for fire, and it made me, I went out and had a look at it as well. I think the main thing that came out of the bushfire report that I can see is that they didn't carry on claptrap about climate change and all that sort of stuff, and like it's up. What they said was, if you get rid of material that will burn, that reduces the chance of a fire. I mean, that's that seems so sensible. And I think that what we're after is to reduce the fire loading material on the ground and then create the opportunity to maintain it into the future. And that's all we're trying to do. And I just can't see why in the long run we won't win on that strategy, because it's a sensible strategy around Warialda.
Yeah.
I think the most disappointing thing about it all is that it won't be in place in the next fire season.
No,
Everything takes too long.
it does. And the longer you move away from a fire season, the less important.
Unless you remember
Well,
it.
it was very interesting that the Rural Fire Service said they've got everything in place ready to go with these burns now. Well, the weather forecasts for the next week aren't going to be,
No.
don't look terribly good when we look like getting up to around 30 degrees, so they'll
think they
probably
were-
back off again, so we'll finish up with.
I think they must have been doing a controlled burn up in Warialda yesterday, were they? Like, or was
Something
that?
on Facebook about it.
There was smoke down on the
I didn't
creek.
see any, I didn't smell any smoke.
Yeah, they had a fire brigade or whatever
Oh, maybe
down
they have got under
on
it.
the outskirts of
One mitigation crew went past today, didn't they, on their way down? So they might be there again today.
So probably the things we need to look at this year, just ourselves, is the fuel depot. God forbid that anything went, so the fuel depot, the telecommunications, or whatever we call that tower, and just take them on board ourselves and
And the water, the
And go
water
at it.
tower,
The-
yeah.
the- the
and
compounds around
just
the
do
water
that.
tank.
And I
The
think
wa-
the, like, on the land that we have licences over in Warialda, we have the ability to clear, providing there was the fire material on the ground was excessive, was that right? What's the word they use?
Fuel load must be, the fuel load must be maintained was the clause. And anything 6 metres from any boundary, and that same rule, I think 150 millimetre diameter, 3 metres tall.
Yeah. But what I was thinking, that property that I mentioned in Queen Street, it's behind those properties is, bushland that we're the licensee of. I think we should go in there and we should clear out the ground clearing. The stuff on the ground. And actually,
Is that to the east or the west, Max, that you're talking?
it's to the,
I've no idea.
Queen Street runs the,
West,
South of Queen Street.
South.
Up in the
West.
Binga end of Queen Street. Like
Is it the blocks that run down behind the hospital?
that bushland that runs opposite the high school and then around down, yeah, it's in that area there.
East of the high school.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
south east
Yeah.
of the high school.
It's
Yeah.
actually earmarked for future residential development in Warialda.
Yeah.
That's another area that's.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But, those sort of areas, we should get in there and start doing the work, because we're allowed to.
If we're allowed to,
Yeah, I think so
And
too.
we should assume that the fire loading material is excessive, so that under the licence we can do it. Who's going to come back and say it isn't?
That'll already be done, you won't know. Okay, we better keep moving. Is there any other questions on that report?
No, that's right. And,
Mover of the
Oh, the
recommendation.
fire hydrants were the other things that they pointed out to council.
Yeah,
see, look,
yeah.
now that Councillor Regan is a homeowner in Warialda,
Oh, she did buy one.
No, I haven't yet, but I nearly do.
Yes, Leon, you're moving that recommendation.
Yeah, I
they
was just
voted
going to
yes
say,
too,
is
by
Max
the
going
way.
to
Out
add,
here.
Is Max
People-
going to add to it that we get SMK to move on that Crown land thing that you're going to talk about?
You want to add that to?
Well, I think we should. If we're going to do it, we should start it now. There's nothing like getting something done.
Seconder?
Yes.
I should have asked you to move it, councillor.
Ah, no,
You second it, will you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
I think we should, like Francis was saying, I think whatever we do now, we've got to get onto it very quickly, I think, and really
Yeah.
push it. Yeah.
All right.
Well, we're lucky. I think Peter Taylor's committed to the
Yeah,
process.
he is. Yeah, no, he was good. Glad he was doing nothing.
Okay, we'll put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no carried, thank you. Now to page 202. I think, yes. Motion to go to LG New South Wales conference.
Yeah.
Good luck with it, but I'll move it.
It's a virtual conference.
Yeah, it'll be here, we'll all, yeah. All right, so it's been moved, you would have all read it, it's there. Need a seconder, please. Councillor Colton, and is there any other motions that you would like to add to that? It's going to be a bit funny, isn't it, this year? The conference going for half a day and it's virtual. So it's just going to be motions, I guess. There'll be no speakers. But I've done a few sessions now with Jason McTavish, Cross-Border Commissioner. Oh, it's ordinary, really.
It is very difficult to be enthused. Max, that 50%, that's really important, isn't it? Because that's what holds a lot of our
80%.
Oh,
voting.
yeah.
So,
They had, the Moree Aboriginal Lands Council had trouble getting the 50% because what was happening was one family in Moree that were against anything to do with the guys that were considered to be the elders were stacking the meetings basically. So that's why we agreed to fund the attendance of people there early on. So I suppose what we did, we stacked the meeting, but yeah, we got the vote we wanted, yeah.
You didn't tell them how to vote. But...
No, we didn't tell them how to vote.
Is there any other thoughts on this matter before I put the motion?
Is it strong enough?
Yeah, as strong as it can.
There's a few more strong words in there, Peter.
Right, I'll put the motion in. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no carried. Right, at this moment we'll adjourn for morning tea.
Before you, like, you're going to go into confidential when you get back.
Yeah.
Can I suggest that it probably would be appropriate just to give a bit of feedback about the commercial hotel before we go into confidential session so that it is available to anyone that listens to
Sure, right.
our broadcast, and also it's available for the newspaper to actually publish. We, the senior executive team and the mayor, yesterday met with a builder to do an assessment of the building so that we would be ready for the inspection this afternoon at 3 p.m. by councillors. We wanted to establish whether it was feasible to remove the additions to that building and maintain the essential core from the very original hotel. I haven't got COVID, but I've certainly got a dry cough. I think, though, like other people that were there will be able to talk as well, but for my perception was the builder said it really would be hundreds of thousands of dollars to do any potential saving of that building so that it was reusable into the future. Having been through it now too, there is no redeeming features that I saw, other than it's got a lot of stuff in it that could be, you know, if we're buying everything that's in it as well as the building, we can actually, there's a lot of scavenging stuff that could be certainly defray any cost of the development, although I'm not sure exactly what we are buying other than the building, but I suspect we're buying everything except the poker machines. But anyway, that.
In the licence.
Oh, well, the licence for those things as well. So, but anyway, I mean, essentially, I think the general agreement, and, you know, those that were there can not agree, or if they don't agree with what I'm going to say, but the essential thing was we either buy the building and demolish, or we don't buy it. If we have to keep the building, all we're doing is opening up a money pit that we're going to throw money at without any good outcome in the end. Also, when I was up there, I noticed that there's public toilets behind the courthouse. I spoke to Adam Marshall yesterday, And I asked him, did he think the state government would be acceptable if we renovated those toilets as part of a new park that we were building? And rather than us having to provide the toilets, which is one of the options of keeping the building, like having the toilet, but even though the toilets are pretty poor condition in the hotel, and they're actually, only one of them is part of the existing building, the original building, the other one is an add-on. And he felt that the government would be supportive of that. It would actually, we would take down the fence between the land that we're thinking of buying and the courthouse, and we would be opening that area up as if it was part of the park as well. And we'd have those toilets available for people that use that facility. Anyway, I felt it was important to say that out in public so people know at least what the senior staff, and I think the Mayor was supportive of that
Can I
approach.
add to that it's still possible for us to withdraw from the purchase? There's
We have
been
an
no deposit paid, so we have the option of not going in at all. So desire. It's hard to have this discussion when you haven't seen it yet, but I agree with Max. Once I saw it, we went upstairs. It's in a bad way.
Mr Mayor, I think it's easy to have the discussion because at no time was it ever part of the motion that was moved, and I moved the motion. And at no time did I ever move a motion saying that we would buy and restore a hotel.
I think
And if we take that on board, you can bet your boots there could be one going down in Bingra, maybe Gravesend, and maybe Coolatai, that will all look to council and say, you did it once, we're setting a precedence.
I think
And I
Councillor,
think that it's something we need to be very careful of.
Councillor Regan, the reason we're having this discussion, the only reason we're having it, is that there's been a reasonable amount of pressure from the public, so it had to be discussed.
It had to,
But-
I understand that.
But
but
any discussion I've had with the public has been on the basis that we would consider it upon inspection of the premises, and none of us had seen it. And, the other request has been that we've moved the Historical Society up to that building, and we've spent a fortune on them already. I agree with exactly what Max said. After inspection of the property, it's either demolish it or don't go ahead with the purchase. That's the way I see it.
Just to be clear, the inspection was done yesterday, so we could inform you today. From a professional perspective, I guess, one, that there's been considerable feedback from the Warrior community wanting to retain some people want to retain the lot, and they think that it's a business opportunity that will disappear. Some want to restore just that core that is the brick building and return the bullnose veranda. And there's also been representation from the Historical Society to move there. But we looked at it yesterday as a group of senior staff to make sure that what we were saying, particularly around a service club can knock it down if it needs to be, and just looking at what's involved. And if there was any remote possibility that there is opportunity to restore the building and then have a builder there to give us an estimate, and just so we can inform you today before you inspected it this afternoon. There is community pushback saying that they want it as is, so council needs to be mindful of that when they think about the way forward. And there's nothing to restore without rebuilding, really.
Councillor Dick.
Mr Mayor, I also make councillors aware that we're going to take over the building just down from across the road from the council chambers.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want an art gallery or a pop-in centre or a function area, that building is absolutely perfect for it. I mean, someone wrote to us and said, "Oh, we want an art gallery." Well, we can put the art gallery on.
That's a good point, Councillor Dick, very good point.
You know, I mean, we don't want another building. I back.
And I agree entirely.
Councillor Egan.
It was never discussed to buy a building, it was discussed to buy.
As I explained a minute
purchase a
ago,
lot.
it wasn't, we understand that, but
Yeah.
we've had pressure. But in saying that, I was recording all the phone calls and things I had, and it was still running at about 50-50. I had people ring me and say, pull it down. But I think we've got a silent majority. I think if you went round the community, they'd probably, most of them would say pull it down. The other thing is that it would, you know, it'd be an ongoing cost. Every year there'd be a cost involved.
Absolutely.
And it'd have to be depreciated in every other way. And I don't think that you can ask the people outside, the ratepayers outside the town to pay for that. I think it's an unreasonable request because it's going to be a considerable amount of money.
So when it was first brought to council to purchase the lot for a green space, where did it initially come from? Because it was out of that $300,000 that we were going to spend on the CBDs.
Yeah, the suggestion came from the general manager himself.
So it came from the council, not from,
Yeah.
The other thing that we can look forward to is the fact that maybe, and it just would appear, that the courthouse, and there will be,
We're trying to keep it going, but yes, you're right.
yes,
Yeah.
we try,
We won't open
we
that.
don't have any thoughts to closing it, but should that happen, that's
Oh,
a
it's
historical
already-
building that we will need to take.
It's already
care of.
closed. I mean, you know, it's not
Yes, it is.
operating.
No, it's not.
It's not operating,
It's not
but they
operating.
do,
If I was a betting person, I would think that we'll probably get that for $1 at some stage in the future.
and there's another
I'd
building
have a
we
bet
will,
with you,
and it
mate.
is a beautiful building that will have a lot of historical
Exactly. I
value.
think that's the logic. We talked about that yesterday too.
Yeah.
And the Historical Society could move into that, not into the hotel.
Well, the Historical Society's got a premises now that's adequate and it's been a lot of money spent on it.
A lot of money.
And, yeah,
I think one of the best responses that I've received is from some people that must be wowsers because they want it knocked down simply because it is at a hotel.
yeah, I think there's a lot of sentiment there to keep it, but you got to be practical about all this. And, anyway,
Maybe
it's-
it's-
you'll,
yeah, I
you'll
would
go and look
vote
at
to
it
keep
and
the
see,
We'll go and
make
make
up your own
a
mind.
decision
Yeah.
after we've.
That's the licence, they've kept the licence.
Yeah, they've got the licence and they will, I think the guy purchased it for the alcohol licence and the poker machine licences.
Can he take those elsewhere? The poker machine
Yeah, oh,
licence,
my word.
definitely.
Yeah.
But I didn't think you could take
No,
licences
they're worth a
from,
lot of money in a
They're worth
hotel.
a lot of money.
but I didn't think you could take them from the bush to the city anymore.
Yes, you can. Yeah, it can go anywhere.
That's what happened to the Gully Hotel.
That's why it closed down, but they said that they'd stopped it after that. No. Because
Are you
that's what
talking
they were-
about
The
poker
licence to
machines?
sell alcohol.
Well, I don't know about that. It's not worth much apparently, but the
No,
poker machine
poker
license is
machine.
worth
It's
a lot.
not worth much
Yeah.
here, but you take a licence into the city and it's worth a lot.
Yeah, but the
Well, what's your-
poker machine licences you can sell anywhere.
Yeah, I know.
So what you're saying is probably right because the liquor license isn't worth much.
Not here.
So maybe it can't be transferred to the
Well,
city.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. But
Yeah.
poker machine license, there's 4 poker machines in there.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm not sure how we would, like we're about to exchange contracts, so that's, you know, it's fairly imminent. How are we going to decide whether or not,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Well, I don't know whether
Well,
we,
certainly we don't exchange contracts until council have had the opportunity to look.
would the councillors be happy to make that decision on site this afternoon? Whether we buy it or not?
Yeah.
Knowing there's
I-
really
I-
only
I-
2 options.
I don't see there's any problem with delay, like if we just say, look, no, the deal's off,
Yeah.
no one else is gonna come in and, so, yeah, it's still gonna be there next month, isn't it?
Yeah,
If we-
Yeah, just have an extension of contract.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll do it that way. But
Why can't we do it electronically on this computer? A vote.
Well, can I suggest, I'd rather not delay it again because we've already delayed it for some time, but if any councillors have got concerns that we should be keeping the building after the inspection, if they could contact me, and based on that feedback, we'll stop. But if I don't hear back from anyone, then we'll go ahead and exchange the contracts on the assumption that the building will be pulled out. One of the things that we need to do, we'll have to lodge a development application to demolish the building. So, you know, the community will have the opportunity to put forward their comments as part of that process. So,
I suppose the other thing is that at the moment, there's a resolution by council to buy the building.
The
So,
resolution is to buy the lot.
beg your pardon?
The resolution says to buy the lot, number so and so.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
well, that
building,
includes
that's
the building,
including the
yeah.
building.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't say to to refurbish a building.
No, no, I didn't say that.
No.
I said the resolution is to buy the building.
Well, the building.
So that we don't have to come back and decide to buy it. We have to change it that we don't want to buy it, okay?
Yeah.
So after the inspection, I'd say that we'll have a yarn when we get on the site, that's it.
So, is everyone happy if we approach it that way, that if I don't hear back, that we'll progress with the buying on the assumption it's going to be demolished?
So what happens if when the DA goes up and you get a whole lot of oppositions to demolishing? So we've got a building, we've paid for a building, and then we put a DA out to knock it down, and then a whole lot of people come and say, oh, I don't want that building knocked down now, I want you to do A, B and C with it.
We're already
Where do we
getting
stand
that.
then?
Already getting that,
Already
yes, so
getting
Yes, I know, but what
I'd say
happens
that
after we own
the
the
council-
building?
Ask them to
the
give us
council will be making the
105,000 and they take over.
Pardon?
council
Ask
will be
them to give
making
us
the
back
decision.
our money and
Can't
they can
hear.
have the building.
Council's the determining authority,
Yeah.
in other words, so
Yeah,
that we
the
can.
DA will be approved by the council, that will determine that.
Because we don't want another building.
The only thing is if we said, look, no, we're not interested in it at this stage,
Well, that's
isn't it, all these people that are worried about it being not, it's back in their court there.
They can buy it.
Do you like want to buy it, or do you want to just leave it there, or what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can see you want to sort of try and clean something up, but
No, you see, the problem here is that none of these people had any inclination to move the museum there, and it's been an orchestrated attempt, probably by one or two people, who have been, and according to the mayor, most of them have mentioned particular names when they've telephoned him. You know, like squeaky wheels,
Yeah.
I think they win too often.
yeah.
And could
But anyway, when you see this building, you'll realise just how unrealistic it is
It's a bit
to keep it.
It's a bit the same when they were building new hospitals and everyone was up in arms and the old ones meant so much. Now everyone loves the new hospitals because
Yeah.
they're warm and
Yeah.
No, that's dead right, and I said that last meeting, that once it's gone, there'll be no more
yeah,
noise.
it was the same, you know, they didn't want to knock hospitals down, they didn't have to
do
work in
this.
the
That's right.
And could I point out that we've given one community group ownership of a hall that advanced this far with this much more work to be done, and
Yeah. And there's actually one of the people involved in it, in the current wanting to move in there, was involved in us purchasing the old church at Gravesend, which
Yeah.
is going to be the ants pants of
that was
museums.
the other thing I had when I.
The other thing is that the current museum's never open, well, it's open one day a week, I think.
Yeah.
So it'd still have a building there closed most of the time. And, anyway, we'll inspect it and we'll talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that.
And we'll just,
And on one last point, if I could just, taking up your question before about the budget on the pool, we are trying to save money because we did have to spend a bit extra on the piering because of the reactive nature of the soil there. But we are trying to save that as we move forward. So
Thank you.
I didn't want to mislead you, but
Not at all.
our trusty finance manager reminded me by text.
I'll just make a couple of comments on that. Firstly, with the historical side moving up there, I think we've already spent a couple $100,000 on the buildings down there to get that in order for them. So, and we also kicked out a charity organisation that was paying rent.
yes, that's
So,
right.
That's one. I don't think they should go there. I don't know the structure of the building. Obviously, it's in bad repair. I don't like throwing money into things that we've got to spend a lot of money on to fix. But I would like to, if it does get purchased and it does get knocked down, I would like to salvage some of the history of it.
Yeah,
Somehow, I don't know,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
somehow. But
look at that this
Yeah.
afternoon too.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. But they're just a few comments I'd like to make on it. I'll think of others as we go.
It's a, you know,
But what do you do?
you never want to go against the community wishes, but in this case, that, and if we pull out of that and don't buy it, because
What's
we're
gonna
not
happen?
going to restore it, it's just bit by bit going to fall
Yeah.
down.
Council's already had to maintain the yard. We've had to go in and clean it up. So
It's not being done.
it's not being done and it won't.
Did we on forward those costs to the person that owns it?
I I don't know if we could or not, but we,
Well, I think you're quite within your right to do that.
Deducted from the sale price.
It's certainly not in the best interests of the aspect of the town to have that building decay in the middle of
No.
it
Yeah.
when we're trying to attract tourism. An empty falling down building does nothing.
The other, just an aside, I've got some friends staying at home at the moment that have been caravanning around a lot of Queensland, inland towns, and they said that the number of hotels and other businesses that are closed is just astounding. I don't think there's any way in the world that hotel would ever reopen.
No.
Anyway, we'll break at this stage. We'll go into confidential session when we come back, and we'll have morning tea.
So you've got plenty to write about this week.
Call the meeting back to order, please, and do I have a mover that we go into confidential session? Councillor Egan, seconder. Councillor Galvin. Put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And carried. That motion, those in favour say aye. Oh, you're right with that, Tim. Got it, good man. I think I'll have to vote on that. That's carried. And what's the thing to do? Would those be adopted? Well, we've done that. You want another motion to say that?
Yeah, you need
The
to.
matters from confidential be adopted in the...
Yes, that,
Would you like to move that one?
Yes, I
Thank you.
will.
Another seconder, please. Stuart, Councillor Dick, I should say. Did that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Put the motion, those in favour say aye. So carried. That being it, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much for your attendance, and I'll see, hopefully, all of you at 3 o'clock at the commercial hotel.
And
we're going over
1:30.
here at one.
Oh, we're going over here after lunch, yes, that's right.
What time is it now?
For some
Mightn't get
reason-
over there, if you didn't mind.
Yeah.
I have had a bit of a bit of
Oh,
Yeah,
anything
okay,
Robin
no,
sends
that's-
me, I can't
yeah,
open.
because I'm gonna have to.
Well, I'm having a few problems too. I thought it was just me.
No, anything Robin sends me, I can't open. She sent
no,
me,
there's something,
there is something wrong.